So today I'm here with Michael J Sullivan. Welcome.
Welcome. Nice to meet you. I've known you for quite some time. However, this is the first time I've actually met you face to face, and you look just as handsome as you do on television,
Oh, thank you.
or at least on a computer screen.
Well, let's get right into it. One of the big things coming up is you have started work on The Cycle, which is a series that takes place after Riyria Revelation.
It has nothing to do with bicycles.
Oh, okay. Well, that's something we learned today. So, breaking news.
So
No
if you tuned
bicycles.
into this and you thought maybe this was a big deal on bicycling or maybe touring, it's not. It's just a fancy novel.
The first thing I just want to get out there is, I think a lot of things in The Cycle are probably pretty close-lipped right now. But there are a lot of questions that people have had. So I was hoping to just do a rapid fire. And this is not going to be, tell us about any of this, but just yes or no. Is this something in The Cycle?
Okay.
All right. Who is Galarbrin and her backstory?
Yes.
How were the giants created?
Yes.
How were dragons created?
Yes.
What happened when Trylos and Turin talked at the end of Ezra Hodden?
Yes.
What happened when Bryn went back into Pyre?
Yes.
What happened to Royce after he became Thane?
Yes.
What happened to Mercy and Allie?
Yes.
What is Rex Nexeria up to?
Yes.
Does Muriel forgive Turin?
That'll be next.
Does Zephyrin gain her soul back or gain entrance to Pyre?
Yes, that will be covered.
What was Trylos doing during Riyria Revelation?
Yes.
What is the tomb of Yorick which Arcadius found?
Yes.
Where are the missing treasures of Turin, including the crown of light, his spear Narsirabad, and his mantle?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Do Tess and Tressa escape the abyss?
That's covered.
Where did Niblick and his crew end up?
Not in the first two books. but I would technically yes. Now that I think about it, technically yes. I'm not answering it the way you think it would be answered, but yes. And those are pretty much all covered in the first two books that I've already written. So that's the light stuff. That's the tip of the iceberg. That's where you're starting from. Those are the things that you know you want answers to. The things you don't know yet that you want answers to will be the rest of this. You don't know what you don't know, essentially. And that will be what you're going to be hitting on later.
So to catch everyone up then, it sounds like the first two books of The Cycle are already completed.
I have written the completion of both of those. After writing the first two books, my wife read them and she was cutting the grass, stopped and she got out the mower and came into the cabin and gave me this wildly passionate kiss. Never happened before with any previous book, but so it's an indication that at least she enjoyed it. So I don't know, but I can never tell when I write a book if it's any good or not because I write the thing and I'm like, I don't know. It's like even until I reread it, if I put it away for 6 months and come back and reread it, oh, this is actually pretty good. I was that way with Fairlane. I wrote Fairlane. I thought, oh, this is a good book. I think maybe not. There's some parts I don't understand. And then I came back with the final edit and I actually teared up reading the end of the darn thing. And I'm like going, okay, this is a darn good book. So, but I have to hear other people's response too. Cause I mean, it could just all be in my.
So you have those two books, rough drafts written. How many books total? 5 books.
Now, there's The Cycle and there's The Cycle Project. Cycle is 5 novels. The determined length of each of those is up in the air. Then there's the Cycle Project, which is going to be many things. One, there'll be a compendium, which will be a spoiler-filled glossary, a anthology of short stories. All of my short stories will be in there, but there'll be at least, I think, around 8 to 10 new short stories, which will be foundational works that you should know about before you read Cycle, and it will be released separately. This is not coming all together, obviously. So you'll get Blythen Castle, which is necessary for that. You'll need the short stories. There's going to be a comprehensive atlas with multiple maps of different areas, such as the world will be completely revamped with literally everything on it from all ages. You'll also have a pyre map. You might have a detailed map of certain cities like Receplicus or Rochelle. These things would hopefully all be in there. I've got at least 3 of the maps done. Hopefully we'll have more by the time that comes. And all of these things are going to be compiled, and they will all be released one after the other until you finally get to the first book of the site. It's a rather large undertaking that is not simply 5 novels.
And you mentioned book 6 of Chronicles, Blythen Castle. Are there 2 more Chronicles books coming after that?
Not at this time. So I think there's room for one more, which I skipped over. So there could have been a chronicle between Drumondor and Blythen Castle, because there is a gap there of a year. Whether I'll ever fill it or not, I don't know.
And then in terms of the short stories, 2 of those are already written.
The first one was The Storm. The Storm has yet to come out, and I've already written Eternal Winter, which is going to be for the Unbroken Kickstarter, which is running right now. And it's an amazing thing. It's got like every big name in fantasy is in there. That one covers, obviously, if you have any knowledge of my books, that has to do with the Eternal Winter that occurred long ago at a very crucial point of time about a very crucial pair of characters.
I won't keep sticking on the cycle because, I don't want to just keep asking questions about
Which
that
is
you won't
really
be able to
what
answer.
anyone who's watching this is really hoping. No, do more. What are you crazy? You have him there.
We got some other questions that people have always wondered.
Okay.
All the artists, all the immortal artists in Elan, who would you say is the strongest?
Whoever lived or is who presently living?
Whoever lived.
The strongest one, whoever lived, would be Peneleus.
Menelaus. Okay.
She was the one who essentially invented it. She was the first one to actually use it. Because she would be the starest one, and it kind of bears out a bit if you've read Age of Death.
Same type of thing. All the strongest fighters.
All the strongest fighters. The fact that at one point in the books, I literally said that if all the fighters came together and fought in a great battle, the one who would be on top would be Sebek. However, there have been some changes since then, as per the cycle, which may alter this to some degree. There are some new names you don't know about.
If your work was adapted in a good way that you had full creative control, would you rather have a TV show, movie, or video game?
When I did have my books signed over, the idea was that the Riyria Revelations, or the Chronicles all told together, would have been a television series or like on Netflix or whatever. But Legends would be full-blown movies. And that was kind of the idea, because Legends is much more epic, whereas Riyria Revelations and Chronicles are much smaller scale. You can see how those would scale down to smaller venues, and also it's much longer tail, so you really would need more hours. So that's one thing. The other would be the fact that, like I said, Legends is much more sweeping, much more epic. It's got much bigger special effects. So that would probably be better off in a big movie.
You put a lot of Easter eggs in your book, a lot of foreshadowing moments. Are there any Easter eggs or foreshadowing moments that you don't think anybody has caught yet?
To be totally honest, considering I wrote these books like 22 years ago, but I wrote them that long ago, so I may have put things in there, and until someone finds them, I probably won't remember that they're in there. Not long ago, someone did find something, going, "Oh, you're the first person to pick that up," and I forgot about it. But I'm like, "Oh yes, there was that thing in there." Some of the things that are Easter eggs are triggers that have yet to be triggered off.
Who has been the hardest character for you to write?
What makes a character fun or easy to write? If a character is very intelligent, if I'm writing Ezra Hodden or Fairlane, these are highly intelligent people. They're quick-witted. They're kind of funny. They're a little bit sarcastic. Those people are the funnest for me to write, because I get to use my full vocabulary. I get to use my full free associations as I can, and I get to exercise like the full extent of my stuff. Whereas I'm writing someone who is very simple, or hasn't had a lot of experience, and they're quiet or shy, those are harder, because I have to basically, I'll write wonderful sentences and I have to go, no, that doesn't work, and I'll use a particular word that fits perfectly. No, I gotta trim it down to something much simpler than that. So those are generally harder to do and not as much fun. They're all interesting, they're all fun. I mean, enjoy writing Juan Delay. He's great, even though he may be a terrible character to everyone reading it, but he's fun to play in his psychosis. It's just a wonderful way of dealing with him. Myron is wonderful. They're all fun to play with, but the ones that I had the most fun with are ones I can really push the envelope on, and those are people like Ezra Hodden and Fairlane. And Niblick was, of course, a hoot.
Has there ever been a plot point or storyline that you wanted to write or did write but then had to cut?
when I wrote Ezra Hodden famously, I wrote the entire history of Jerish and how he goes from being kinda orphaned. He's, like, kicked into this monastery because his mother dies and his father doesn't wanna deal with him anymore, and he goes there, and it's a very long story about how he grows up and how he's in the guild and how he grows up with all the boys who then grow into men, and how he was kind of ostracized, but became fantastic at fighting. So there was a really cool story, and almost all of it got left on the cutting room floor. That was the first time I ever cut any substantial amount out.
And that one's on Royal Road though, so
You
people
can
can
get
actually look that
you
up.
can get they're unvarnished, they're unedited, so they're gonna be really bad. But yes, you can see those things.
Going back a couple of years, in a Zoom call in 2021, you
Mhm.
were asked about the character of Eaton. And you stated, in Legends of the First Empire, you got to meet everyone, you just don't know it. And then you went on to say, you are obviously sitting there going, well, where is Eaton? And I'm like, well, that doesn't necessarily mean you didn't meet him. It's just that you didn't know it. So here we are in 2025, a full series past that comment, and a lot of people still aren't entirely sure what that meant.
The answer to that question is pie. In other words, that's a spoiler which I'm not gonna give away.
Going back to that same Zoom call, when discussing Trylos and Turin, you stated, when I hear people talk about Trylos and Turin and they talk about how they expect those two to resolve this issue and how they talk about these two different people, I'm like, you're not getting it yet. You're not seeing the dynamic as it's supposed to play out yet. Obviously, that dynamic between Trylos and Turin, we kind of, at the end of Ezra Hodden, see how that dynamic could be changing with those two perhaps joining forces. But is
Well,
that what you're referring to?
the whole concept that has always been kind of alluded to many, many times, and many readers are resisting the concept, which is they have been trained to believe Trylos is this horrible, big bad. I've always found this fascinating because they always list, "This is what he did, this is what he did, this is what he did." I'm like, "Have you looked at Royce?" I mean, he is one of the most I mean, consider if you're going by literally the crimes he committed, he's much worse. Hadrian is much worse than Trylos would be, and yet Trylos is considered this unredeemable character, which I always thought was fascinating. So, people have gotten a impression of Trylos, which I will admit I fostered and I intended. You've seen this evidence if you've read Age of Death and into Age of Empire, wherein you are told repeatedly by people like Farrell and Drome and Krylos that you don't understand how it was. If I wrote the original war, if I wrote the war against Uberland, it would be like Frodo and Sam and Aragorn and Gandalf are fighting Sauron, and now they've been killed, and they're coming back, and you're talking to people and it's like, Sauron's really trying to make amends. And they're like, "What, are you nuts? He came back twice. He tried." It's like, "You don't," so they're the good guys of old. So they're getting a really bad rap because Uberlin is running around telling everyone the wrong story. So this is a huge problem. Overall, if you look at the evidence, I mean, Travis is really not actually guilty of anything, except some people make assumptions that he is guilty about a few things, like starting a war and stuff. That's actually not true. You'll have to hear him give his side of the story. But no one has actually heard Trylos give his side of that story. All of these things will be explained. The whole point of the cycle is to provide answers to everything. My hope is that when you get done, people walk away and go, "But what?" Oh, he answered. "But what about?" Oh, he answered that too. So I'm sure you'll come up with new questions because you will never let anything die. It has to actually seem, but it will be really close. I'm pretty sure all questions that have been asked up to this point will be taken care of.
Going back to characters that maybe people see more as villains, what are your thoughts on Arcadius? Do you think Arcadius is really evil guy?
Most of my characters fall into this situation. Salder and Arcadius are very similar. They are almost the same character divided by a very fine line. You also have Turin falling in the same. Many of these characters are identical. They are all people who feel that they did something wrong and they're trying to make up for it. How they go about doing it defines them. And in the case of Salder, he was very heavy-handed and he didn't care who he hurt. Arcadius is far less that way. He's a very good character. However, at some point, he was becoming desperate, and he took certain shortcuts because he felt that was the only way to do it. And it's at that point where you ask your hero, is like, why don't they just kill the guy? Why does Batman, who is this superhero, why doesn't he just take out a gun and just kill someone? It's like, Does that cross the line and make them no longer a superhero? Do they suddenly become a supervillain? Same question could be asked about Arcadis. Arcadis is that kind of character. He did take the gun out and shoot in order to make the greater good, right? Does that make him evil? Would you do that? If you were back in time and you knew Hitler was there, you had a gun, would you kill him? This is famously asked in The Dead Zone by Stephen King. And it's like, does that make you evil? Does that make you a good? Are you a hero or evil? It's really hard to say. So, and then of course you have Turin, who's trying to not do that. He's trying to never cross that line, which is why you have Elan. You have a decision he's trying to make in that, and he's trying to make it without pulling the trigger. He has to let people decide. And that's kind of the division line of these people and how you go about, rectifying your life without causing more harm. Or do you take that one shot and make it fixed like that? There's a lot of people in my books who are a lot less evil than people think they are. I don't really have any evil characters, generally speaking. I always try to show how and why they do what they do. It's from what perspective are you seeing them from? Like I said, I painted Trialos' character because you never really see his side of the story. And I do that with a lot of characters. I mean, Salder, you get a little glimpse near the end of 2 books where he talks about what he really wants to do. He's actually trying to make the world a better place. And he's trying to make them have codified roads, and he wants to make people make more money and be less famine in the world. So he's really a decent person, but he just goes around it wrong. And so that's what they're all trying to do. But how you go out doing it often defines who you are. And that was kind of the theme through much of the book.
I think a lot of people are very excited for the cycle to come out. Any guesstimate about when date might come?
If I can be left to right, I might be able to get through. I would say no more than, my wife keeps saying, well, you can get done with them in by 28 or 29. I'm going, if I don't get done with it by then, I'm going to be dead, because I should be able to get it done by then. Hopefully everything will be at least to a point where I can say, yes, we're good, let's start editing. And once I hand the books over to be edited, they will come out. And they'll probably come out once a year.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for interviewing us.
Thank you so much for watching today's video. Be sure to subscribe and watch my other videos to learn more about the world of Elan and Riyria. Thanks!